Hi guys, back again, Louis from the UK, doing a bit of flexing. So, I wanted to make this video a bit different. It's only me speaking at the beginning and the end. I want to help you understand, especially if you don't know the carnivore diet, why the carnivore diet works, why a low carb keto diet works. I can't really explain it. I'm not a medical person, I'm not a doctor, and I'm not good at things like that. So can you just watch all these different people speaking and then get a feel for it yourself and then just look things up, and hopefully this will help you, okay? So thanks a lot. Don't forget, I'm 56 years old. I hope you enjoy these video clips. All the best.
Today I'm going to show you some of the lies that have been propagated.
It's a big problem. Nobody's talking about it. Why are so many people in the 21st century sick? You're a medical doctor, maybe the nicest person in the world.
Doctor, which means to teach.
But your medical doctor doesn't practice healthcare. They practice disease management. There's a giant difference between healthcare and disease management. You don't get healthier. Your heartburn is never cured. Your blood pressure is never cured. Your anxiety and depression are never cured. Being sick is the new normal. Look around. Since 1912, in the United States of America, we have existed inside of a medical monopoly. Inside of a monopoly, well, absolute power corrupts. Pharmaceutical industry took over control of the development and the delivery of medicine. When you're sick, you're scared, and you're basically going to do whatever the man or the woman in the white coat tells you to, right? Why are so many people obese? Why are so many people's life expectancies getting shorter instead of longer? Why is Alzheimer's and autism skyrocketing? Why are these things happening? Loved ones are so grief-stricken that they donate thousands of dollars to the medical profession under whose care you got sick and died in the first place. It's insanity. Are you happy in paying hundreds, if not thousands of dollars a month in medical insurance premiums, which give you access to a system of medicine when you inevitably do become sick, a system of medicine which simply manages the problem? If you have high blood pressure, the first thing to consider is that you don't have enough calcium and magnesium in your body, and that's the cause of the high blood pressure. It's not because you have a lisinopril deficiency. If you're suffering with type 2 diabetes, it's because you're eating all of the wrong foods all of the time. If you have an arthritic condition, it's not because you got older. It's because your bones and joints ran out of the raw materials that they needed to keep themselves healthy. And this is just the tip of the iceberg.
You have to know what is the species-specific diet for humans over the last 3.5 million years. Now, we've been on this planet as a species for about 350,000 years. But our ancestors, long before that, were already eating this proper human diet. The vast majority of us have been completely misled when it comes to what actually is a proper human diet. I myself was deluded as a doctor who did get some nutrition training in medical school. I had no idea at the time when I became severely obese. I became pre-diabetic. I had all these chronic medical problems, and I thought that was just a product of getting old. I've been doing this wrong the entire time, not because I'm dumb, not because I'm lazy, not because I'm a glutton, but just because I was given the wrong information. And most people, when they hear that, are relieved, like, oh my God, I thought I was just a lazy glutton. Maybe there is hope. And yes, my answer is 100% there is hope. You were just using the wrong template, even if it was endorsed by a very prominent, famous organization or association like the American Diabetes Association, the American Heart Association, the American Medical Association, because very often they have other interests. Their main interest is not you getting healthy.
There is conflicting information. So not only do you have to do the research, you have to sift through conflicting information. So there's a lot of variables against people.
So that brings us to Ancel Keys. He said that Americans eat too much fat, and much of that saturated fat damages the arteries and leads to coronary artery disease. And what was his qualification? Well, he was a BA in economics and he was a PhD in fish physiology. Yet, he was appointed by the US government to give advice on how we should feed our forces.
When the war ended, Ancel Keys turned his scientific curiosity toward the new American plague, as he called it, coronary heart disease.
And then he comes up with this diet heart hypothesis that stated that dietary saturated fats increase cholesterol in the blood and in turn increases the risk of coronary artery disease. He correlated dietary fat to death rates. The more fat, the higher the incidence of CHD. But the graph on the right was the real graph. Those are all the countries that were included in that list. And what he did, he only selected out countries that he knew fell into that graph and presented the data. This is called cheating.
Still like apples as much as ever? Haven't got one in your pocket, have you, Doctor?
What every single one of your ancestors, you watching this right now, listening to this, every single one of your ancestors before 15,000 years ago ate meat and ingested blood. That diet is what made us what we are. Based on years of studying the anthropological data, paleoanthropological data, text from explorers and researchers from the 1600s, 1700s, 1800s, and early 1900s, it becomes pretty obvious, these basic principles. And so this is where I've gleaned all this from, not just from reading the latest nutrition research, because you won't find any of this there.
This study looked at over 100,000 men and women in 18 countries, and all 18 countries were included in the follow-up. And the conclusion was there was no association between coronary heart disease and mortality or the intake of saturated fats and overall fat intake. Patients who ate more fat, especially saturated fat, had lower incidence of strokes. The higher carbohydrate intake was associated with an increased mortality. When you don't have fat to eat, you're going to eat carbohydrates.
In modern society, with epidemics of type 2 diabetes, prediabetes, metabolic syndrome, and obesity, these people are just eating too many carbohydrates for their personal physiology.
It is all to do with carbs. In 1961, multiple studies already showed that if you eat a high carbohydrate diet, you get lipemia within 1 hour. Fruits are not that good for you. And stop making a puree out of it, juicing it, so it all goes into your body all at one time. And the poor pancreas says, what happened? I had all the sugar in 5 seconds. I don't know what to do with this. I'm going to give you all the insulin I got. Throws it all out there. Now you get hyperinsulinemia for the next 4 to 5 hours. And fructose goes straight to your liver. Your liver then converts it into fat. That fat will go straight to your belly.
Now, some people can tolerate more carbohydrates than others. It's a known concept in evolutionary science. Any population of a species, there's going to be variability. And so some people can tolerate up to 100 total grams of carbohydrates a day and still be very metabolically healthy, mentally healthy, physically healthy. Other people need to turn down what I call the carbohydrate intake knob. For some people like me who fatten very easily and develop prediabetes very easily, I have to keep the carbohydrate intake knob turned down as low as I possibly can, which is a carnivore diet. Most people in the population, if they eat too much veg, they're going to have bloating, they're going to have a skin issue, they're going to have joint issues, mental health degradation, they're going to have something.
At what point did you think that I got to start telling my patients to do this as well?
That's a great question, because I used to secretly think that all my patients were non-compliant, because I would recommend to them Weight Watchers or the American Diabetic Association diet or the American Heart Association diet, and then I would watch them get predictably fatter and unhealthier, and their numbers get worse and worse and have to be put on more and more medication. And so I just thought they secretly all had Twinkies and Doritos under their bed, and they weren't listening to what I was telling them. Only when I became obese and when I put my own recommendation into action in my own life did I realize, hey, I know that I'm eating what I tell myself to eat. I don't have any Twinkies under the bed, right? But it's still not working. And so actually when I really tightened up initially and tried to follow the diet that I was taught in my half-semester course in medical school, lots of whole wheat, very low saturated fat, and jog. That was basically the 3 take-home messages. I actually gained more weight and got more unhealthy by following that. And it was at that point that I said, enough is enough. I've got to figure out what human beings are actually supposed to eat. And that's what I'm going to recommend to my patients, regardless of the consequences.
Well, I hope you learnt from that and enjoyed that. And I completely understand people just thinking that the carnivore diet is just silly and stupid and is just a fad. But if you really look into it and listen to all the hundreds of different people that have had success stories with the carnivore diet and keto, and all the doctors and scientists that are also supporting this diet, you'll start to get a feel that we're not being told the truth. We're being misled about the correct way to eat. And we're all trying to follow a diet that is recommended to us by our doctors and on Google and basically wherever we look, about grains and vegetables and fruits And it's just incorrect. We're not being told what we need to hear. And there's not enough people saying it, but the number of people that are saying it is growing around the world. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. Thanks everyone.